So one way or another. All right, let's see what we got here. I tried playing the drum, but I cracked my fingers. Yeah. Low on drummers. But Dravida Kumar is supposed to be here now. You remember that? The boy? The young boy? Dravida Kumar. Looks like a Tibetan monk. You don't remember him?
He's in India.
No, he just came back today. That's what I'm telling you. He may be tired. He's probably tired.
I thought it was going to be a month.
It's been a month. It's been a month. Time is flying. Okay. Anyway, it'll be great to see him. All right. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mishnapad Paramahansa Pradikacharya Astotar to the Shishimad of Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai O Mishnapad Paramahansa Pradikacharya Astotar to the Shishimad of Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, now, you remember which paragraph we're on? 12. Yeah, that's where the marker was. I'm assuming it's right. Okay. All right, we just went through this thing with the 5. No? If the fingers of the hand think they should take the food themselves instead of giving it to the stomach, then they will be frustrated. All right. We'll do the second paragraph of the page 12. We won't miss anything there. All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. on this 19th day of November. We are reading in SanDiego, California. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in the introduction, page 12, second paragraph. We shall find, therefore, in this Bhagavad Gita, that the complete whole is comprised of the Supreme Controller, the controlled living entities, the cosmic manifestation, eternal time, and karma, or activities. And all of these are explained in this text. All of these taken completely form the complete whole. And the complete whole is called the Supreme Absolute Truth. The complete whole and the complete Absolute Truth are the complete personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. All manifestations are due to his different energies. He is the complete whole. All right, I'm going to pause it because I remember now we read this complete, and this goes on until we get to the middle of the next page. Yeah, it was complete. Everything's complete. You see, this is coming straight from the Ishopanishad. So we're going to skip to the middle of the page 13. All Vedic knowledge is infallible. Forgive me for this. You know what I need is a little marker or a little pen, a pencil I can just put in the margin. So while we're doing this introduction, because there's so many, it's hard to tell where we are, you know what I'm saying? All right, so we'll be able to do it. This.
Maybe some of those little sticky things.
Yes, I have those. You mean this
Small,
not the real big ones?
mine are this big.
No, that'll be all right. Just for the. Okay, we'll figure it out.
We don't want to waste paper.
That's true. All right, we're going to begin with all Vedic knowledge is infallible as soon as I re-announce this thing. On this 19th day of November 2018 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We're still in the introduction, beginning in the middle of page 13. All Vedic knowledge is infallible, and Hindus accept Vedic knowledge to be complete and infallible. For example, cow dung is the stool of an animal, and according to Smriti, or Vedic injunction, if one touches the stool of an animal, he has to take a bath to purify himself. But in the Vedic scriptures, cow dung is considered to be a purifying agent. One might consider this to be contradictory, but it is accepted because it is Vedic injunction. And indeed, by accepting this, one will not commit a mistake. Subsequently, it has been proved by modern science that cow dung contains all antiseptic properties. So Vedic knowledge is complete because it is above all doubts and mistakes, and the Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge is not a question of research. Our research work is imperfect because we are researching things with imperfect senses. We have to accept perfect knowledge which comes down, as is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, by the parampara or disciplic succession. We have to receive knowledge from the proper source in disciplic succession, beginning with the Supreme Spiritual Master, the Lord Himself, and handed down to a succession of spiritual masters. Arjuna, the student who took lessons from Lord Sri Krishna, accepts everything that he says without contradicting him. One is not allowed to accept one portion of the Bhagavad Gita and not another. No, we must accept the Bhagavad Gita without interpretation, without deletion, and without our own whimsical participation in the matter. The Gita should be taken as the most perfect presentation of Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge is received from transcendental sources, and the first words were spoken by the Lord Himself. The words spoken by the Lord are called apaurushaya, meaning that they are different from words spoken by a person of the mundane world who is infected with 4 defects. A mundaner, 1, is sure to commit mistakes, 2, is invariably illusioned, 3, has the tendency to cheat others, and 4, is limited by imperfect senses. With these 4 imperfections, one cannot deliver perfect information of all-pervading knowledge. Vedic knowledge is not imparted by such defective living entities. It was imparted unto the heart of Brahma, the first created living being, And Brahma, in his turn, disseminated this knowledge to his sons and disciples, as he originally received it from the Lord. The Lord is Purnam, all perfect, and there is no possibility of his becoming subjected to the laws of material nature. One should therefore be intelligent enough to know that the Lord is the only proprietor of everything in the universe, and that he is the original creator, the creator of Brahma. In the 11th chapter, the Lord is addressed as Prapitamaha, because Brahma is addressed as Pitamaha, the grandfather, and he, Krishna, is the creator of the grandfather. So no one should claim to be the proprietor of anything. One should accept only things set aside for him by the Lord as his quota for his maintenance. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So Srila Prabhupada is still going from some of the Ishopanishad ideas here. And he kind of echoes the introduction to the Ishopanishad by dealing here with these 4 defects. The problem for the conditioned soul is that we're suffering and we don't know why. So, therefore, we need knowledge. Because otherwise we'll try to mitigate that suffering in ways that just increase our suffering. Like, it will be sure to, you do a fruitive work of any kind, it ensures your rebirth, and then you go through the cycle of death and old age and disease. So this knowledge has to come from outside the realm of our immediate senses, because we can't understand who we are, that we're spirit souls. We don't know why we're bound up in this condition, and we don't know how to get out. So we're just in ignorance. And that comes from these 4 defects that Prabhupada talks about here. I like to think of them in order, is that our senses are imperfect, that's for sure. And because our senses are imperfect, we make mistakes. We think we hear something outside, we don't know what it is. Is it a trombone? Maybe it's somebody wailing. And, we just don't know. So we make mistakes, and we make mistakes about the most important thing, which is who we are. Everyone is thinking we're the body, but we're not. So on that, making mistakes constantly, and everyone else making the same mistake, everyone's in illusion. We're all in this illusion. So we're senses imperfect, making mistakes, falling into illusion, and then we in turn propagate that mistake, teaching others, children and so forth, that everyone is completely in illusion. So those 4 defects. So the way to, the only solution to that is to find a source of knowledge that doesn't depend on our limited mind and senses. And that's where this idea of apaurushaya knowledge comes in. And Prabhupada is stressing that this knowledge has to come down. It's not something that we can figure out on our own. There's the ascending process of knowledge and the descending. The ascending is like the scientific method. We observe, and we try to find patterns. And then we come to a theory of how things are working. We test the theory, and it comes out the same way all the time. Combine oxygen and hydrogen, and it makes water. And then we say, okay, that's concluded. That's part of what nature is happening. We've increased our knowledge. We didn't know that before. And this accretion of knowledge is what we are experiencing now. Just think of the automotive engineering science. How they built that up. I mean, I never rode in a Model T Ford, but I know that they were pretty crude compared to what we have today. They couldn't go very fast. They didn't have windshield wipers. They didn't think of that at first, and all kinds of things. But gradually, the automotive science has increased. Now there's so many computers. Now they're trying this thing with driverless cars. I think it'll never catch on. It'll never catch on, because part of the driving experience is being in control, and moving, and to feel that you're being driven and there's no one in the seat. It's too much. Anyway, this is my prediction. But the idea is that this kind of knowledge really can't get us close to solving our basic problems. In fact, it deepens our ignorance, because we think we're solving our problems. We think that we're advancing when actually we're not. You know, and we, with all of these cars and trucks and heating and everything, we've increased the temperature. Climate change, it's happening. And yet, there's a whole, you know, the people who are running things, in terms of the top capitalists and oligarchs, they're invested in things going on as they are. Even though we're committing, you know, ecocide, but it doesn't register with them. Their whole being, their whole reason for existence is just to make money. And you know, having to cut back on the petroleum products and everything is just going to, it doesn't compute for them. So here we are, you know, we're in a situation that Prahlad Maharaj described, dukkha aushadam tadapi dukkam. The remedy for the trouble, you know, I heard something amazing, this was some time ago, that one of the big meal impetuses for the automotive industry back in the early 20th century was because these cities were growing, and the main means of transportation was, Zachary? The horse cart. Now just imagine a big city with horses everywhere, a huge mess, huge mess. These are animals, and they're passing everywhere. And people said, this is crazy, and so when the cars started coming, everyone was very, yes, let's get the cars. So it solved that problem, and you know, the interstate highway system, they spend billions and billions of dollars. Eisenhower built that mostly. You know, oh, now we can go fast from place to place to place. But meanwhile, all the time, they're increasing the carbon dioxide in the air, and all the pollution and the accidents, and going into debt to buy the car, and there's always a downside. So that kind of knowledge, technical knowledge, technological knowledge, won't help us. What do we need? So we need the parampara. We need to accept the knowledge, and Prabhupada gives this example of the cow dung. You know, that, you know, there's feces, and everyone's like, well, I gotta stay away from that. But cow dung is actually different because of how, you know, the way the animals eat and everything. It's actually purifying. You take cow dung to purify the altar. You know? And they say, well, really? You guys do that? Yeah, and if you test it, you'll find that it actually is antiseptic. So, in other words, we may not see how certain statements in the Shastra is true, but we have to accept it. Otherwise, we have no standing. We're back on our own devices. So that's the whole point here. And Prabhupada is making the point, the Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all this transcendental knowledge. Then he talks about Krishna as the Prapatamaha, the great-grandfather, because he's even the father of Brahma, who's known as the grandfather. So everything is coming down from Krishna. All right. So, proceeding on, in page 14.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Discuss the tendency to cheat others.
Yes.
Why is that?
Why is that one of the 4 defects? Well, that's like a key defect. What that means is, think of it, is that how are we going to know who we are? Well, you know, I'm a son of so-and-so, daughter of so-and-so, I was born in such a place. It's all body, body, body. That's who we are. And everyone else is thinking the same thing. So, when we may hear about a different kind of philosophy, that we're actually spiritual, and you know, we say, if you're really steeped in that understanding, and you're not a little curious, you'll just reject it as insignificant. I know who I am, you know, and we Americans have to stick together, you know, we Californians, you know, SanDiego, whatever, you know. So it's all family, tribe, and everything, you know. So the point is that we come to this ignorant conclusion, and then we propagate it. We insist on its being true, and that is what is called cheating. In other words, we don't recognize our inability to really know and understand. That I keep going back to that verse in the 2nd chapter where Arjuna gave up trying to figure it all out on himself, and he surrendered to Krishna, and he accepted him as a guru. You see, as a source of transcendental knowledge, as rather his own sensory knowledge and mental knowledge. So that tendency to cheat is how this ignorance is propagated, and why it's so difficult to convince people to hear and to understand this, because they're fixed on these false conceptions of themselves and what's good and how to live in this world, and they're, you know, as we grow up, people who are in ignorance of parents and teachers and everyone else, mostly religious leaders, they all deepen our misconceptions. So all of that, we have to get bound up.
Kind of an illusion.
Yes, yes. And the thing is, when a genuine realized soul comes, he's not out to cheat you. He's out to give you the knowledge that can really, you know, benefit you the most. And we saw that with Prabhupada. Because, you know, he was in great contrast. There were so many other yogis and bogies, you know, coming to America at that time, because the field was open. You know, first of all, they changed the visa program so that many more Indians could come, right in the middle of the 60s. You can check it out. Historically, it was a lot easier to come and stay for some time. And so this yogi, that yogi, they took advantage, you know. But there was always a motive, and you could see over the years they may have developed like this Rajneesh. I mean, the guy was he was totally material, although it had the trappings of spirituality. And so it was, you know, there was a danger there. And what Prabhupada was displaying, not only by his words, but by his actions, that he had no material motive in doing it. I mean, it was obvious. The others came, they were younger, you know, and they got comfortable positions. Prabhupada never got a comfortable position. He was successful, but whatever money came, okay, let's build a temple here, let's print books over there, let's do a festival here. And he's just riding off with like 2 little suitcases on the next, you know, on the next plane, which gets more difficult as you get older. You know, he always showed this mood of sacrifice for others. And so that's really the mood of someone who's giving this real knowledge, is they're not out to sell it in order to make money. They're out to give it in order for people to benefit. And that's the essence of this is why Prabhupada took so much trouble. This introduction, by the way, there's still a recording of this. There's an excellent recording of Prabhupada dictating the introduction to this Bhagavad Gita. He did it on a reel-to-reel tape recorder. You remember those? You know, he had this thing in his little room up on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. He was living alone, and he just, I don't know, he sat there and he recorded this for hours. The thing is over an hour long recording. You know, later on, the tape recorder was stolen. Someone broke in there, but they didn't take the tape. The tape survived. so it came survived. Yeah, it's amazing. He probably just wants to get this out. He didn't know what he was going to be able to do. All right. There are many examples given of how we utilize those things which are set aside for us by the Lord. This is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. In the beginning, Arjuna decided that he should not fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. This was his own decision. Arjuna told the Lord that it was not possible for him to enjoy the kingdom after killing his own kinsman. This decision was based on the body, because he was thinking that the body was himself, and that his bodily relations or expansions were his brothers, nephews, brothers-in-law, grandfathers, and so on. Therefore, he wanted to satisfy his bodily demands. The Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord just to change this view, and at the end, Arjuna decides to fight under the directions of the Lord when he says, Kadishye vachanang tava, I shall act according to your word. In this world, men are not meant for quarreling like cats and dogs. Men must be intelligent to realize the importance of human life and refuse to act like ordinary animals. A human being should realize the aim of his life, and this decision is given in all Vedic literatures. And the essence is given in the Bhagavad Gita. The Vedic literature is meant for human beings, not for animals. Animals can kill other living animals, and there is no question of sin on their part. But if a man kills an animal for the satisfaction of his uncontrolled taste, he must be responsible for breaking the laws of nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly explained that there are three kinds of activities according to the different modes of nature. The activities of goodness, of passion, and of ignorance. Similarly, there are three kinds of eatables also, eatables in goodness, passion, and ignorance. All of this is clearly described. And if we properly utilize the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, then our whole life will become purified, and ultimately we will be able to reach the destination which is beyond this material sky. Yadgadvananavartante taddhamma padamang mama. That destination is called the Sanatan sky, the eternal spiritual sky. In this material world, we find that everything is temporary. It comes into being, stays for some time, produces some byproducts, dwindles, and then vanishes. That is the law of the material world, whether we use, as an example, this body, or a piece of fruit, or anything. But beyond this temporary world, there is another world of which we have information. That world consists of another nature, which is Sanatan, eternal. The Jiva is also described as Sanatan, eternal, and the Lord is also described as Sanatan in the 11th chapter. We have an intimate relationship with the Lord, and because we are all qualitatively one, the Sanatan Dham, or sky, the Sanatan Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Sanatan living entities, the whole purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is to revive our Sanatan occupation, or Sanatan Dharma, which is the eternal occupation of the living entity. We are temporarily engaged in different activities, but all of these activities can be purified when we give up all these temporary activities and take up the activities which are prescribed by the Supreme Lord. That is called our pure life. Okay, let's just review now. So the contrast between Arjuna and his trying to figure everything on his own, and then acting on that. He had made a determination based on what we call a gut reaction. He sees his beloved relatives, his grandfather, his teacher. He doesn't want them killed. The most amazing thing to me is that he says, without the sons of Dhritarashtra, who I would standing before me, who I would have to kill, I don't want to live. They had tried numerous ways to kill him and his brothers. But his forgiving nature, he saw the relationship there. So Arjuna is trying on his own based on his bodily relations, but he gives that up and he surrenders to Krishna. So that's a key element there. And human beings have a special capacity to understand these higher matters, so we shouldn't act on the animal platform. This is always the struggle, because we've come up through these species and we still have so many tendencies: the eating, sleeping, mating, defending, the quarreling, the fighting. That's all part of our conditioned life. And when we live like that and we yield to those tendencies, then we've wasted our human life. It's by not practicing real Dharma. Dharma is what distinguishes human from animal life. The human being should realize the aim of his life and direction, and this direction is given in all the Vedic literatures. So the key, let's see. So then Prabhupada talks about the Sanatan, and that becomes a theme here. The Sanatan life compared to the temporary material life. We're meant to return to our Sanatan life. And the only way to do it is to train up now and to live on the basis of the Sanatan Dharma that Prabhupada is teaching, that's there in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, to revive our eternal relationship with Krishna. Okay. So then he goes on with Sanatan. The Supreme Lord and his transcendental abode are both Sanatan, eternal, as are the living entities, and the combined association of the Supreme Lord and living entities in the Sanatan abode is the perfection of human life. The Lord is very kind to the living entities because they are his sons. Lord Krishna declares in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Yonishu Aham Bija Pradakpita. I am the father of all. Of course, there are all types of living entities according to their various karmas. But here the Lord claims that he is the father of all of them. Therefore, the Lord descends to reclaim all of these fallen, conditioned souls, to call them back to the Sanatan, eternal sky, so that the Sanatan living entities may regain their eternal Sanatan positions in eternal association with the Lord. The Lord comes himself. What did I do here? The Lord comes himself, okay, in different incarnations, or he sends his confidential servants as sons or his associates or acharyas to reclaim the conditioned souls. Therefore, Sanatan Dharma does not refer to any sectarian process of religion. It is the eternal function of the eternal living entities in relationship with the eternal Supreme Lord. Sanatan Dharma refers, as stated previously, to the eternal occupation of the living entity. Sripad Ramanujacharya has explained the word Sanatan as that which has neither beginning nor end. So when we speak of Sanatan Dharma, we must take it for granted on the authority of Sripad Ramanujacharya that it has neither beginning nor end. The English word religion is a little different from Sanatan Dharma. Religion conveys the idea of faith, and faith may change. One may have faith in a particular process, and he may change his faith and adopt another. But Sanatan Dharma refers to that activity which cannot be changed. For instance, liquidity cannot be taken from water, nor can heat be taken from fire. Similarly, the eternal function of the eternal living entity cannot be taken from the living entity. Sanatan Dharma is eternally integral with the living entity. When we speak of Sanatan Dharma, therefore, we must take it for granted on the authority of it in the light of modern science. It is possible for us to see that Sanatan Dharma is the business of all the people of the world, nay, of all the living entities of the universe. Non-Sanatan religious faith may have some beginning in the annals of human history. But there is no beginning to the history of Sanatan Dharma because it remains eternally with the living entities. Insofar as the living entities are concerned, the authoritative Shastras state that the living entity has neither birth nor death. In the Gita it is stated that the living entity is never born and he never dies. He is eternal and indestructible, and he continues to live after the destruction of his temporary material body. In reference to the concept of Sanatan Dharma, we must try to understand the concept of religion from the Sanskrit root meaning of the word. Dharma refers to that which is constantly existing with a particular object. We conclude that there is heat and light along with the fire. Without heat and light, there is no meaning to the word fire. Similarly, we must discover the essential part of the living being, that part which is his constant companion. That constant companion is his eternal quality, and that eternal quality is his eternal religion. So, that's a key concept. And this is mentioned in the second chapter, first canto, where the sages at Naimisharanya, they ask Sutta Goswami, what is that activity? What is that dharma? By which the soul can actually be always satisfied, supremely satisfied. And you know the answer. Yes, very important section. Savai pung sam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahaitukya pradayata yatma suprasidati. So for the soul to really be satisfied, so deeply satisfied forever, this is the formula. For human beings, the supreme dharma, because it has to be admitted that there are all kinds of other dharmas, you may call them upadharma, kudharma, or kaitava dharma, that are masked as dharmas but really aren't. So this is the param dharma, savaipangsam paro dharma. Yato bhakti hokshaje, that which gives rise to bhakti, loving devotional service to Adhokshaja, Krishna. The word Adhokshaja means the transcendental Lord. But there has to be this qualification for this dharma. The activity and the service that we render, which is what bhakti is all about, the loving devotional service, has to be free of any material motive. Ahoituki means no cause, but in the lingo of the Bhagavatam, it means no material motivation and uninterrupted. This is the standard that Rupa Goswami sets in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and is right out of the Bhagavatam. Such devotional service can bring full satisfaction to the soul, and that means not just temporary. It means forever, eternally. The whole section is about eternal, sanatan, 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 sanatan. So then he goes on to describe how to develop that actual bhakti and what the dharma is for that. Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
So, this reading about the religion as compared to Sanatana Dharma, it makes me think of book distribution. And I've gotten quite a few times people ask, oh, is this a religion?
Yeah.
And then when they get the sense that it is, off they go, they walk away. So do you think it would be better suited to explain the concept of Sanatana Dharma to them when they ask that question?
Yeah, tell them it's not a religion as you know it. You know, it's probably call it a science. It's a process of yoga. It's a culture. You know, something that they can relate to. That's not religion, because religion, it has so many connotations. Immediately you think of the churches, and you think of the Christians, and you think of the Christian, you think of the Catholics, and then, you know, there's all this stuff going on with the Catholics. And Muslims, oh my God, is it a Muslim religion? You're not Muslims, are you? You know? And if you say, no, we're Hindus, that doesn't help very much either. The reason why it was successful in spreading, because Prabhupada never presented it as a religion in the ordinary sense. It's actually a whole culture in which you undergo a transformation, and you actually come closer to the God, the one God, you know. But of course you don't want to say God. God is also a difficult word. It's not easy. Okay, we have time for one little more section here. All right, where was I? God, I'm losing my space. Yeah, here it is. Top of page 17. When Sanatana Goswami, here we have another Sanatana Goswami. This is the Sanatana section of the Gita. When Sanatana Goswami asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the Swarup of every living being, the Lord replied that the Swarup, or constitutional position of the living being, is the rendering of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jivara Swarupoi. Next line. You got to know the next line. Yeah. This is a very important answer, right at the beginning of the instructions to Sanatana Goswami in the 20th chapter, I believe, of the Manya Lila. So the eternal form, the eternal function of every living entity is to serve Krishna, to be a servant of Krishna. Why? Because we are Nityadas, the eternal servants. Krishna Tatastha Shakti, we're part of Krishna's energy, called the Tatastha, means situated on the margin between matter and spirit. And this is an eternal position that we have. And this is a controversial point, but eternally being on the margin means we always have that choice to withhold our love from Krishna and come into this material world. So because we're so minute, we have that position. But Beda Prakash, we're simultaneously one with and different from Krishna. So real mukti means reviving that swarup. Mukti hit panyata rupam swarupena vyavastiti. So that word swarup is there, right? Swarup means their actual form. These forms of ours are just temporary. They're changing. They can't be our swarup. Swarup means it doesn't change. It's not. So we each have a spiritual form with which we serve Krishna. It may be a human form, it may not be a human form, but it's full of, full consciousness. And we're perfectly happy serving Krishna in that way. Maybe a coward boy or whatever. So reviving that swarup and that understanding of how we relate to Krishna through that swarup is what bhakti is all about. Okay, if we analyze this statement of Lord Chaitanya's, we can easily see that every living being is constantly engaged in rendering service to another living being. So the service propensity is there, but we're misdirecting it to the body or other people's bodies. A living being serves other living beings in various capacities. By doing so, the living entity enjoys life. The lower animals serve human beings as servants serve their master. A serves B master, B serves C master, C serves D master, and so on. Under these circumstances, we can see that one friend serves another friend. The mother serves the son, the wife serves the husband serves the wife, and so on. If we go on searching in this spirit, it will be seen that there is no exception in the society of living beings to the activity of service. The politician presents his manifesto for the public to convince them of his capacity for service. The voters therefore give the politician their valuable votes, thinking that he will render valuable service to society. The shopkeeper serves the customer, and the artisan serves the capitalist. The capitalist serves the family, and the family serves the state in the terms of the eternal capacity of the eternal living being. In this way, we can see that no living being is exempt from rendering service to other living beings, and therefore we can safely conclude that service is the constant companion of the living being, and that the rendering of service is the eternal religion of the living being. Okay, why don't we stop there? All right, I'm going to leave this right there so that we know where I am. Hare Krishna. For tomorrow. Now, let us move to the Krishna book. We did the Nectar devotion last week, somewhat, so this will be the Krishna book. Let's see if I can figure that out, where we are in Krishna book. We're near the end of the book. Okay. Where did we leave off? Wow. Okay. I think we're in the prayers of personified Vedas. Yeah, we got to be in those prayers. Yep, there we are. All right. The purpose of studying the Upanishads is to understand the transcendental qualities of the Absolute Truth, as opposed to the material qualities of ignorance, passion, and goodness. That is the way of Vedic understanding. Great sages like the four Kumaras, headed by Sanaka, followed these principles of Vedic knowledge and came gradually from impersonal understanding to the platform of personal worship of the Supreme Lord. It is therefore recommended that we must follow the great personalities. Shukadeva Goswami is also one of the great personalities, and his answer to the inquiry of Maharaj Parikshit is authorized. All right, I think that we actually did this already. Yeah. Okay. We're going to go to the summary of Krishna's qualities, which is, I think, where we actually were. The master of the senses is Rishikesh, Lord Krishna. Therefore, the senses should always be engaged in his service. As for material reputation, there were many demons like Ravana who wanted to go against the laws of material nature, but they all failed. One should therefore not take to the demoniac activity of claiming to be a Vaishnava just for false prestige without performing service for the Lord. But when one engages oneself in the devotional service of the Lord, automatically the Vaishnava reputation comes to him. There is no need to be envious of the devotees who are engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord. We have practical experience of being advised by the so-called Babajis in Vrindavan that there is no need to preach, and that it is better to live in Vrindavan in a solitary place and chant the holy name. Such Babajis do not know that if one is engaged in the preaching or in glorifying the Supreme Lord, the good reputation of a preacher automatically follows one. One should not, therefore, prematurely give up the honest life of a householder to lead a life of debauchery in Vrindavan. Srila Shukadeva Goswami's recommendation, I'm going to put this at time out. There is some kind of a thing here that goes off on the hour. Yeah. Is there a way of silencing? Anyway, can you figure it out? You know how to work these things. Every night at 8 o'clock, it's going beep for me. It's distracting. Hare Krishna. Okay. Do not lead a life of debauchery in Vrindavan. Srila Shukadeva Goswami's recommendation to leave home and go to the forest in search of Krishna is not for immature persons. King Parikshit was mature, even in his household life, or from the very beginning of his life. He worshipped Lord Krishna's murti. In his childhood, he worshipped the deity of Lord Krishna, and later, although he was a householder, he was always detached. And therefore, when he got the notice of his death, he immediately gave up all connection with the household life and sat down on the bank of the Ganges to hear Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 90th chapter of Krishna, a summary description of Lord Krishna's pastimes. We just finished the book. So we have a little time. We'll start the introduction. Is that okay? Okay. It never ends, unending.
Have you always done
You know, I don't think I did. I used to just do Bhagavad Gita.
When did you start Krishna?
Must have been a while back since we just finished the whole book.
When I first came, you weren't doing it.
Okay. But variety is the spice of life. So where is this stupid thing? Okay. So the first thing we're going to read is George Harrison's little intro, which it actually helped sell this book. You know the story of how he paid for this book? That's worth telling. You know this. You heard it? So Shama Sundar was the May first contact with him. It was an amazing thing. I won't go into all that. He went down to the Apple Studios and sat there, and George came out, and there were a whole bunch of hangers-on, people wanting to see the Beatles, but gradually they left, you know, most of them. And so George came out last, or near the end, and he saw Shama said, "I've been looking for you guys. Where have you been?" You know? He had already gotten with the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and he'd been to India, and and one thing that happened is that they got the first record that Prabhupada made, you know, of chanting Hare Krishna with the address, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And Prabhupada was able to play the Mridanga on there. The Mridanga, you know, he's just sitting in 26 Second Avenue. There's no, but some kid walked in with the Mridanga the night before they had to go do the record. And you know, he had to leave. They said, "Please bring the Mridanga back tomorrow." They said, "Oh, he probably won't," but he did, and Prabhupada was able to play that Mridanga. So the record was a success, and it got around, and George got a hold of it, and he described how he's floating along in a yacht somewhere off the Greek islands, you know, on a retreat with I think John, and they would just listen to that record hour after hour and singing along with it. So he's getting, you know, attracted to Krishna. So anyway, what happens when Yamuna and Guru Das and Shamasundar and Malati and Mukunda and Janaki went to England to open up England, 3 couples. You know, Prabhupada sent them and trained them up in bhajan and kirtan. You know, so it wasn't long. You know, after a while, they were able to meet George, and George, you know, I mean that was like they were world famous by then. So they made an album. You know, they made a record which became very popular. They were touring around. They were playing in clubs. They were playing in bars, chanting Hare Krishna, going all over Europe. And Shama Sundar was the best friend. You know, he was the main contact. So he was very careful never to ask him for anything. You know, they didn't ask him for any money or anything. It was all just being in association with them. And he volunteered to make the record. You know, the first album. So what happened was that Prabhupada wanted to print the Krishna book. You know, the devotees did. Why the Krishna book? Well, he'd been working on the Bhagavatam, you know, and he had the 3 volumes of the first canto. That was very important, and I think a few other books were coming out. TLC, the Teaching of Lord Chaitanya, Yishopanishad was out. But the devotees didn't really know who Krishna was. They didn't know all the Leela. So he stopped everything and started dictating this Krishna book. And he finished probably after some months, and he needed $19,000 to print it, but the movement was so poor at that time, they didn't have it. So he asked Shama Sundar to ask George for the money. He's so wealthy, he's a millionaire. So Shama Sundar was very reluctant. He says, "Prabhupada, you know, we haven't asked him for anything, and that's why he's so friendly to us, and it's, you know, so you just do it. Krishna will take care." So he said, okay, he surrendered. So he went to his house. I don't think it was the manor, I think it was another place. And, you know, big, very opulent place, and they're having dinner, you know. So finally, after the dinner, Shama Sundar breaks in and says, "Well, our spiritual master is wants to print his book, and he needs $19,000. So immediately George he's getting very, you know, now it comes out, you know, now. So at that moment, there was a storm, and there was a huge thunderbolt, what we call a lightning bolt, that hit the house and knocked out all of the lights at that moment, you know. So I don't know, maybe it took a few moments for the generator to kick in or something, you know, or maybe they brought out some candles, I don't know. But when everything was kind of, you know, quieted down a bit, he said, "Well, how can I refuse now?" With that, you know, he thought that as Krishna's. But actually, I heard that he was still a little reluctant, and Prabhupada invited him, and Prabhupada talked to him, and actually convinced him to give the money. But that certainly pushed him in the right direction. So one of the things that he got was that he was able to write a little introduction here. They offered it to him, which is. So he did it obviously with the help of Shyamasundar, because there's a lot of philosophy, but it's got his own unique phrasing. Words from Apple. You can imagine how they would sell this Krishna book, pointing to this. This George Harrison wrote the introduction. Everybody is looking for Krishna. Some don't realize that they are, but they are. Krishna is God. Everything caps. Krishna is God, the source of all that exists, the cause of all that is, was, or ever will be. As God is unlimited, He has many names. Allah, Buddha, Jehovah, Rama, all are Krishna, all are one. God is not abstract. He has both the impersonal and the personal aspects to His personality, which is supreme, eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. These are all caps. As a single drop of water has the same qualities as an ocean of water, so has our consciousness the qualities of God's consciousness. But through our identification and attachment with material energy, you can see, this is right from the devotee's mouth, Prabhupada, the physical body, the sense pleasures, material possessions, ego, etc., our true transcendental consciousness has been polluted, and like a dirty mirror is unable to reflect a pure image. With many lives, our association with the temporary has grown. This impermanent body, a bag of bones and flesh, is mistaken for our true self, and we have accepted this temporary condition to be final. Through all sages, great saints have remained as living proof that this non-temporary permanent state of God consciousness can be revived in all living souls. Each soul is potentially divine. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, steady in the self, being freed from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness in touch with the supreme consciousness. I won't get into it. Yoga, a scientific method for God self-realization, is the process by which we purify our consciousness, stop further pollution, and arrive at the state of perfection. Full knowledge, full bliss. If there's a God, I want to see Him. It's pointless to believe in something without proof, and Krishna consciousness and meditation are methods where you can actually attain God perception. You can actually see God and hear Him, play with Him. It might sound crazy, but He's actually there, actually with you. There are many yogic paths, Raja, Jnana, Hatha, Kriya, Karma, Bhakti, which are all acclaimed by the masters of each method. Swami Bhaktivedanta is, as his title says, a bhakti yogi following the path of devotion. By serving God through each thought, word, and deed, and by chanting His holy names, the devotee quickly develops God consciousness. By chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, one inevitably arrives at Krishna consciousness. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. I request that you take advantage of this book, Krishna, and enter into its understanding. I also request that you make an appointment to meet your God now, through the self-liberating process of yoga, union, and give peace a chance. And then in handwritten, all you need is love, Krishna, Haribol. George Harrison, the 31st day of March, 1970. Cool, huh? We'll begin the preface tomorrow. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So much history. Okay. You're saying we should permanently have the Vyasa-san over here?
Exactly.
Why?
Then
It would be
permanent.
a shorter walk?
Yeah, walk.
I said to Balaram Prabhu we could put wheels on it. He
No,
said,
I think you have to put wheels.
permanently put it here so we don't need
Yeah, just
Yeah.
move this mats
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Good.
Then
no problem.
yeah, no problem.
No lifting.
You can carry.
Much better.
Yeah.
Shishi Gaurata Ki
Jai.
Yeah.
Shishi Radha Ki Hari Ki Jai. Jai Jagannath Prabhu. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine
Namaste Saraswate Namaste Vedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnu Paramahamsa Pradikacharya Ashtotra Krishna Namaste Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Chikho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Bhakti-Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta-Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shanta Madhur Gita Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Maya Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Jagannath Swami ki jai. Ganga Mehi ki jai. Yamuna Mehi ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta-Vrinda ki jai. All glory to the Son of the devotees. Hare Krishna. All glory to the Son of the devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to the Son of the devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
earlier, and then they were blowing up the speakers.
When was it?
It was, Tapas.
It sounded like he blew up the speaker. It made such a loud noise. It was like bam, bam. Sounded like going rocking something.
It's working now. You can hear the buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other mic seems to work.
Yeah,
That's
that.
something about it. Anyway. That's what happens. Everything mechanical, including this body, eventually gives out.
Big.
No, no. Big. Big.
Good, good.
Hungry.
Oh, my goodness.
Very hungry.
Well, let's see.
5 puris,
As long as he helps with the spice.
6 sabji,
Yeah, the first one
2
was
pints of
good.
milk, 3 cookies.
All right.
Gotta leave. Well, okay. Thanks, Rich. Do you want? What's that? Inquiries? Okay.
Wrong.
No. How was it? Good. Good.
Yeah. Domino's here?
Yes, he is.
You didn't come?
Oh.
He's here. I just saw him outside.
When did he get here?
Got here at 5:30, he said. But
What was
first
he
time
doing?
meeting, we have seen.
What was he doing? In the lounge or?
He said he was, I forget what he said. I didn't see him at all.
In the book room?
Maybe, actually, I totally forgot. Yeah, he's probably. But yeah, he's here.
Well, we could touch it.
Good.
Last time what happened is there was a bottle of paprika.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good for you. Still recovering from the Tapas effects. Hare Krishna.
Smells nice. Spicy?
Not too spicy. Very good.
There's a lot of cake here, Suresh.
yeah. My wife is spicy.
You cook spicy. Yeah. I've had all the spices I'm going to have this one.